Hey, Big Brother fans. Well, it is week 5, and head of household Tucker Delorier is plotting some big blindside bombshells for Monday's veto meeting, and a move that maybe half the house is definitely not expecting. One thing people have noticed on the live feeds is Rubina seems to have gotten under Tucker's skin real deep. He is staring at her like a smitten kitten, while Rubina has been worried about them getting in too deep inside the Big Brother house. And I'm telling you this because this is part of his motivation for what he's doing at the veto meeting tomorrow in real time. So Rubina told T-Kor that she thinks she and Tucker could be something in the real world. And Rubina also talked about her and Tucker crossing the boundaries of friendship. It was very odd wording, into something else when she spent the night in the HOH room. So Rubina said that changed him, and it sounds like it's more serious for Tucker now while she's questioning things, but for him, very much more serious. So his veto ceremony and renom plans center on Tucker getting revenge on the people who targeted his showmance, Rubina, who, you know, she also was asking T-Kor what exactly is seen on the Big Brother cameras late at night, talking about that night she spent in the HOH room. And T-Kor told Rubina, don't worry, as long as it was totally under the covers. Maybe not. In past seasons, that would have been captured and on replay and all over social media. But in BB26, the people running those live feed cameras have been strategically cutting off feeds. So she's probably safe. Now back to Tucker. Remember, he's got Quinn, Brooklyn, and Cam on the block. He had told Brooklyn and Cam basically they were both pawns. His real target was Quinn, which made sense to them. But Tucker hasn't really been targeting Quinn at all and made a deal with him to use the veto on Quinn if he would keep his mouth shut that Tucker said he's the real pawn. And then Brooklyn freaked a little because Quinn spilled the beans to her. So Tucker has every right to not use the veto on Quinn. And then during the actual hide and go veto comp, somebody absolutely wrecked Tucker's HOH room above and beyond the boundaries of the comp, throwing his stuff just everywhere needlessly. And after they came back inside the backyard from playing the comp, Quinn got a verbal bashing from Tucker, who assumed he's the one who raided his room and wrecked it. Angela even defended Quinn to Tucker and said he didn't do it. She momentarily thought Quinn did it, and now she thinks she's figured out who really did it, and Angela is right. It was Brooklyn who trashed Tucker's room. She seems to despise him, but thinks he likes her. She's wrong. As of now, only Chelsea knows for certain because Brooklyn did confess it to her after the comp. So between Quinn spilling the beans and Tucker suspecting he trashed his room, a lot of house guests in the BB26 game think Quinn is going to stay on the block and remains Tucker's target. And just in case he was planning to use the veto, Kimo and T-Kor were pressuring Tucker to renom Makensy, who actually is pretty close to him and has made efforts to keep Tucker safe. So I don't even know why they think that's an option. T-Kor in particular was being very pushy about it. Meanwhile, Brooklyn has been lobbying for Tucker to renom Kimo. Completely dim on her part if she doesn't see how close they are and that's not happening. So Tucker's been saying stuff about not using the veto at all to some people in the house. And those are the people who assume Quinn remains the target. And then he's kind of doing some of that back and forth he did like before the last veto ceremony to befuddle people and keep his real plan a secret. He told Joseph and Kimo he planned to not use the veto and leave Quinn on the block with Cam and Brooklyn. And then T-Kor, Kimo, and Joseph were telling him they really want Quinn to stay. So their post-veto comp chats with Tucker revolved around that, and they hope to use the veto to save Quinn and put Makensy up in his place. And he seemed to listen to them and then circled back around, and he did tell those three what he really plans to do. So here's what Tucker is really planning to do at Monday's veto meeting. That will not air until Wednesday night's episode on CBS. And it's pretty funny because Chelsea is quite certain and has said on the feeds repeatedly, Tucker won't use the veto and Quinn will be evicted. But Chelsea and Brooklyn are about to get big, fat reality checks written to them, and Cam seems oblivious as usual. So Tucker said he is going to bust out the collective alliance, and also looks like he's going to trash talk the Pentagon and reveal to everybody he knows about these two alliances. And he's going to let Brooklyn know that he knows who she's working with, and also Chelsea, and then rattle off the names. If you don't remember, the collective alliance was Angela, Cam, Cedric, Chelsea, Joseph, Kenny, Kimo, T-Kor, and Quinn. It was that big alliance. Out of that alliance, Cedric and Kenny are gone. And then the Pentagon is Chelsea, Cedric, Cam, Quinn, and Brooklyn. So Chelsea is in both of those, and then Brooklyn is in the Pentagon. Tucker outing that he knows about these two alliances serves two purposes. First, it gives him a game reason to keep Brooklyn on the block and a game reason to nominate Chelsea as his renom. And then, because Tucker is planning to use the veto and take down Quinn, here's the second part of it. It is going to make it look like Tucker got this alliance info on the collective and the Pentagon from Quinn, because everybody in the house knows that dude cannot keep his mouth zipped. So assuming Tucker's Blindside scorched earth veto meeting goes as he planned, the nominees going into the AI arena will be Brooklyn, Cam, and Chelsea. And if you think back to last week's live eviction, those three names should ring a bell for you. Those are the three that voted to evict Rubina instead of Cedric. That's why I told you earlier in the video what's been happening with Rubina and Tucker's romance, because what I'm seeing now is Tucker circling back around to target the people who targeted his little sweetie pie, but in such a way that it looks like strategic play, because he's exposing this big alliance and a sub-alliance. It'll look strategic rather than like a petty play to avenge Rubina. I like it. It's smart. He's getting the revenge he wants, but he's couching it in terms that it's perceived in a different way. I see Tucker honestly playing a game that at times seems chaotic, but I think is only designed to look chaotic and is actually strategic. He's smarter than people think he is because he deliberately gives off this goofy vibe. And here's what's interesting. T-Kor, Kimo, and Rubina had a three-way gripe session about Tucker helping himself instead of their games, which he's allowed to do. But this week, Rubina is about to get served some sweet revenge for those who tried to evict her. And Kimo and T-Kor are safe. So yeah, he is helping their games. And Chelsea's going on the block, which T-Kor doesn't want, but there's two parts to this also. Tucker asked Kimo, Joseph, and T-Kor if they had any objections to Chelsea as the renom. T-Kor did not speak up about it, but then later keeps complaining her voice isn't being heard. Hello, miss. If you don't say words, how can you be heard, right? So here's what's doubly funny in all this. Chelsea actually doesn't like T-Kor and has her at the top of her list to evict, while T-Kor is busy trying to save her. Meanwhile, Chelsea is going to be blindsided by this renom because she also thinks Tucker likes her more than a lot of other people in the house. It is Delulu. I hope that we see Quinn off the block just for the shocked expressions on Brooklyn and Chelsea's faces when Tucker does it and pulls out this little blind side. They ought to know by now to expect the unexpected, and even more so when Tucker is running the show. Come back soon for more BB26 spoilers, news, and live feed insights.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.